Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, March 18th, 8:48 a.m., and we are back for another market open. The set looks a little different. We are still working around a bunch of different things. This is not going to be the official set, but we got that big table that was in the background out of here. TV is probably not going to be there. It's probably going to go on the wall, but right now that's where we have to put it. And lighting, I just ordered a couple of lights from Amazon yesterday. They're taking an extra day to get here, so the lighting is a little off right now. Lighting's going to get there. So we're still a work in progress with the new kind of background studios. Looking kind of weird right now. So just bear with me for another couple days, and it should look better. And lighting should definitely look better tomorrow when the lights get in. Today's an exciting day. Number one, because it's Monday morning, and we're all alive here on planet Earth. So that's a good thing that we're alive, and it's Monday, and we get to live again because one day we won't. So it's always good to remember that we're alive. Number two, because Apple and Google have quite literally changed the course of where AI might be going. I woke up at, I think, 5 a.m. and I saw this news break, and I was just shocked that this news broke. And I tweeted this what time? I tweeted this at 4:13 a.m. Sorry, not 5 a.m. 4:13 a.m. And I saw this news, and it was just unbelievable. Apple is potentially in talks with Google to allow Gemini to power iPhone AI features. Google is almost touching $150 in the pre-market. Market's pretty damn excited. And this might be the one thing Google needed to get through all the woke controversy they were going through. And it's something that Apple potentially might need in order to allow it to essentially become a bigger player in the generative AI space, given a lot of the market thought that Apple maybe wasn't as serious as companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, etc. for generative AI. So we got to talk about that. We have to talk about Bitcoin that fell over the weekend to a whopping 66,000 from 73,000, falling basically 7,000 points, touched, I think even touched 65,000 at one point. Right now at 68,000 in the pre-markets. Robinhood, 1820 in the pre-markets. You would think some stocks that are correlated with Bitcoin would be taking a dump, but they're actually performing okay in the pre-markets, even though Bitcoin is substantially lower than what it was on Friday, right now at about 68,000, which is lower from about 73,000. So we'll talk about that. Nvda is at $902 in the pre-market. Nvda has a massive conference today. I'll be covering that at 12 p.m. Jensen Huang will be speaking. This is their GTC conference. I did a podcast with my boy Jose yesterday, and we discussed the things we're looking for, particularly the new chips, H200s versus the H100s that NVIDIA is coming out with. And investors are very excited for some type of growth curve that they haven't thought of before that NVIDIA is going to deliver. On top of that, the Fed has their FOMC meeting in a couple of days, or I think it starts tomorrow. It starts tomorrow, but the conference might be tomorrow or it might be on Wednesday. And they're going to determine if rates either go up or if they stay the same or if they get cut. So you got a big NVIDIA conference followed by a big FOMC meeting. NVIDIA might get investors excited. FOMC might take away that excitement. Lots going to be happening this week on the second to last week in the world of the stock market. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's get into the market open. Otto, Adrian, Top Dancer, Professor Joe, Deb, Dougie Fresh, Rick, I'm Beneficial, Yeti, Kevin, Richard, Steph. What's up? What's up? What's up? Thank you, everybody, for being here. Technical Trader Wong, Colorblind Collector, John, Maddie Gersh, Laza, Alex, Brandon, Quarantine Quartet, Brent, General Weenus. I always love that name. Midwest. Brian Murphy says, do not say my name, Brian Murphy. Thank you for being here. It means the world to me. Gary K, Gentle, Mr. Moody. All right. Let's get into it. So first news of the day that we got to discuss is the Google news. Literally, I woke up at 4:13. I saw this and I just couldn't believe it. By the way, guys, I had one of the best sleeps I've ever had, I think, this entire year. I mean, last night I slept at probably like 10:30 and I had a good sleep, dude. I had a really good. This is one of the first days I actually slept and I woke up and I was like, "Huh, wow, I'm like refreshed." So over this weekend, you know what I did? I actually slept on Saturday too, dude. I took a nap. Like, this weekend was for sleeping, ironically, because I didn't sleep last week. And so this weekend I just took a nap and felt a lot more refreshed. So I woke up at 4:13 a.m. and I was just going to go back to sleep, but I checked my phone and I saw this news and I was just like, this is unbelievable. So Google and Apple seem to be collaborating. Let me pull up the Bloomberg article. This is an article we actually want to read through a little bit and discuss, and then we'll talk about the implications of this. And I want to know everyone's raw reactions when they saw what happened. What's up with the tablecloth and TV behind you? We're working on a new studio. The reason that this is a work in progress, we at least got rid of the old set, and so we replaced it with something. But in the next couple of days, this will be a lot better. Right now, this is like all weird. But that TV is also going to go higher on the wall. Right now, we just didn't have the stand for it. So background will be changing in probably a few days, and I'll get a light tomorrow that's ordered on Amazon, and that'll make the set look a lot better just from a lighting perspective. All right, so let's discuss this. Fake TV? No, guys. Just because you think the bricks are fake doesn't mean the TV's fake. Goodness. Could you imagine if the TV was fake, dude? And the bricks aren't fake. The bricks are real, too, so everything's real. All right, Apple is in talks to build Google's Gemini's artificial intelligence engine into the iPhone, according to people familiar with the situation. The two companies are in active negotiations to let Apple license Gemini, Google's set of generative AI models, to power some new features coming to the iPhone software this year. This would be iOS 18. Apple also recently held discussions with OpenAI and has considered using its model. Interesting. So the reason Bloomberg is using Gemini in the title is likely because they think their sources feel that Gemini is much more likely to be a player versus OpenAI. And I wonder kind of who's paying who, right? Because like Google pays Apple $15 billion to be the default search engine on the iPhone. I'm assuming Apple would have to pay Gemini something, right? They can't just be using Gemini for free and giving them Google distribution. Or maybe they are and Google's monetizing it on the back end. This is going to be really interesting to see how this deal actually plays out. If a deal between Apple and Google comes to fruition, it would build upon the company's search partnership. For years, Alphabet's Google has paid Apple billions of dollars annually to make its search engine the default option in the Safari web browser on the iPhone and other devices. The two parties haven't decided the terms or branding of an AI agreement. Alphabet is obviously up 5% because of this. A deal would give Gemini a key edge with billions of potential users, but it also may be a sign that Apple isn't as far along with its AI efforts. And that's what I saw originally when I saw this news. It was, wait a second, why does Apple need to partner with Gemini? Because if Apple needs to partner with Gemini, maybe Gemini is not, or maybe Gemini is far and beyond advanced whatever Apple's coming up with. Apple did release a LLM over the weekend. This is news that went over the rug. They released it. It's a very kind of small LLM. By the way, Grok, Elon open sourced his LLM. It's 314 billion parameters. We'll talk about that. But obviously, it seems like Apple is not as far as advanced as what people thought it would be. Apple's preparing new capabilities as part of iOS 18 based on its own AI models, but those enhancements will be focused on features that operate on its devices rather than ones delivered via the cloud. So features that are on-prem. So Apple is seeking a partner to do the heavy lifting of generative AI, including functions for creating images and writing essays based on simple prompts. Meaning, if you ask Siri to schedule you a meeting, that's going to be happening on the device and it's going to be a seamless experience. But if you want Siri to make a video of a chocolate cake or something, or a photo of a chocolate cake, you're going to need something to power that, because the level of computational power that you would need on the device to do that, I mean, it's possible, but it doesn't seem like Apple has that yet, which is where Gemini would come in. Since early last year, Apple's been testing its own large language model, codenamed Ajax. Some employees have also been trying out a basic chatbot dubbed Apple GPT, but Apple's technology remains inferior to tools from both Google and other rivals, according to people making a partnership look like the better option. And because of this, we are seeing Google up 5% in the pre-market. Now, I have my own sources. Because I am a journalist, even though, I don't work for a big organization. I use YouTube as my outlet. And my sources are telling me that Apple, you see Google right now up 148, up 5.4%. My sources are telling me that Google's Gemini will only be allowed on the black iPhones, not the white iPhones, only the black. That's what my sources are telling me. And it's just common practice with Google. They're making sure that only the black iPhones have the ability to generate images, not the white iPhones. So that's what my sources are telling me. But Google right here, 148.72, up 5.34% in the pre-markets. Obviously, the market's very excited. Google fell to 131 over the sort of woke controversy that's happened over the past couple of weeks. If Google inches up to 152, they have completely erased all of those losses, and they're back to that 150 level, which is where the market wanted it to be. Yes, guys, that was a joke. That was a joke. Obviously, that was a joke. I don't have any sources that said that. The point was Google, they weren't going to make images of white people, so they're only allowing it on the black iPhone. It was a joke. And it wasn't even my joke. I saw it on Twitter. I'm sorry. I felt guilty. I saw it on Twitter. It wasn't even my joke. I have to admit it. See how ethical I am? See how ethical of a person I am? I can't even get away with making a joke without admitting that it's not even my joke. That's how bad I am, dude. That's how bad I am. Okay, so that's the news on Google. We'll go back to them in a little bit, but Google and Apple, obviously big news, and we'll see where it goes from there. When the market opens, it'll be very interesting to see how Google opens up. Tesla, 170. It's up 4%. 170. Tesla's up 4%. If Tesla's dip was 161 last week and it's not going to 145, 130, like pretty much everyone said it was going to, it's going to be hilarious because everyone, including me, said that it feels like Tesla's going to, dip a little bit. It feels like Tesla's going to go down, and Tesla's up. Now, why is Tesla up? I think there's a couple of reasons. Number one, open source and Grok, I think, showed to the market that Elon is actually very confident with XAI. And the reason Elon is confident with XAI is because if you can open source your entire 310 billion parameter LLM, you probably aren't that worried about others taking it, others copying it, et cetera, et cetera. That use case of your obviously sort of unique proprietary trained LLM that you're now giving away for free is going to probably influence Elon's AI goals and ideas. I don't know if that's the only reason it's up 4%, but that's one of the things I think the market was excited for. The fact that they're open sourcing the LLM means that you guys aren't afraid about what's going on in the world of AI, and you're probably more advanced enough to be able to take advantage of different things that's going on. On top of that, the India news was actually very important. Friday, we talked about Tesla getting a huge subsidy by the Indian government. If they just invested $500 million, Elon was on video talking about why he likes India, why he wants to subsidize, why he wants to build factories in India. So that's another big piece of news that's happening right now. And in general, one could argue that it got oversold. And as the market turns green, Nvda event's going to be really big, going to be green. Adam Jonas came out with a new note with a price target of 320, saying that, hey, the market's not factoring in a lot of these different things, especially the bot, even though in his valuation calculus, the bot isn't even included and he still gets to a price target of 320. You just got a lot more bullish sentiment going on into the street. And, that can get the market a little bit more excited to buy Tesla. And as a result of that, you get more people in. Here's Elon quickly talking about why he's excited to expand in India, and then we'll move on from there.
I'm planning to visit India next year. I'm confident that Tesla will be in India and will do so as soon as humanly possible. I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for his support, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something in the not too distant future.
Are you looking to invest in India, Elon?
Yes.
How soon can we have Tesla in India?
Well, we don't want to jump the gun. We don't want to jump the gun on an announcement, but I think it's quite likely that there will be a significant investment and relationship with India in the future.
That's big news. What made you change your mind?
I've never changed my mind.
How was your meeting with the Prime Minister?
I have to go, guys. Thank you. It was an excellent, very good conversation.
How soon will we see you in India?
Next year, count on it.
All right. Thank you, Elon.
His voice or his laughter has to be the most contagious laugh in the world, dude. It has to be the most contagious laugh on the planet. So there you go. That's another reason why Tesla's doing well. Maha, thank you for this comment. I don't know how I could forget this because I tweeted about this over the weekend. FSD 12.3. That's another big thing. So I saw a bunch of people tweet over the weekend, people that own Teslas, people that I trust, saying, look, this is a ChatGPT moment. This is an iPhone moment. I think it's 12.4, if I'm not wrong. It might be 12.3, 12.4. One of the latest versions of FSD came out. And yeah, okay, it's 12.3. Got you. It's 12.3. And people are really excited, dude. People are really excited for 12.3. So if FSD 12.3 becomes FSD 12.5 in the next probably 4 or 5 months, and let's say by the end of 2024, you've got a real working FSD that Tesla could start charging money for. And then maybe Tesla has some test cities in Austin or San Francisco, or they have actual cars running around picking you up and dropping you off. There you go. That's the bull case for Tesla. I mean, we all know how deflationary FSD can be. We all know how productive FSD can be in the context of GDP. I mean, all the time you're spending driving, you're spending either consuming or producing. So you might be watching Netflix while you're driving, which is good for Netflix earnings, or you might be, trying to build the next Netflix if you're working on a startup, which is good for overall economic mobility. So that time that you were spent driving is totally redirected to productivity, which Tesla gets to make, $15,000 a year on and have 85% gross margins on that. And overall GDP tends to go up. So it is going to be incredibly deflationary. It's going to be incredibly exciting if that can actually become across the entire world. And the question simply is FSD going to be ready? Obviously, FSD changed. I mean, we all know that the street or the company itself went from using training videos to more sophisticated neural nets about 2-3 months ago. And that's when Elon released that new video they were doing back in November. And they kind of scrapped what they were working on for a while. But what they're looking at now seems a lot more promising. And if FSD becomes real, yeah, Tesla 161 is stupid. If FSD is real, it's one of the greatest tech companies. It's one of the greatest AI plays in the world. And so I think the market's also excited about that in the pre-markets. And that's why Tesla is going up a little bit as well. What else do we have here? Also, Model Y is going up 1,000 in April, slowly bringing up back those margins. This is also a really good point. Model Y is increasing. I think this came out like Saturday morning or Saturday night, this news. But Model Y prices in the US are going up. And as a result of that, yeah, here we go. Let me show you guys this. That is also bullish for Tesla. So prices will increase by 1,000 for all Model Y trims on April 1st. And in the United States, that means they're going to make $1,000 more on each of these cars, or at least the margin will go up by $1,000. So there you go. You've got your argument for why Tesla is going higher. And in the pre-markets, if you bought the dip at 161, 163, you're up right now, which is a really good thing in the context of Tesla. Let's look at a couple of different equities, and then I want to talk about Nvda. I want to talk about China and TikTok a little bit more. Right now in the pre-markets, we got Palantir up 1.58%. I think Palantir is up because the general market is up. S&P as well is up. Wow. I did not know that. S&P is up almost 1%, dude, in the pre-markets. Now, the reason the S&P is up is because of this guy right here, Nvda 902 in the pre-markets. Nvda has not been able to retain this $900 level. And so it's going to be exciting to see if Nvda can actually retain that. The reason I think the entire market is up is primarily because Nvda is up. And the reason Nvda is up is because that conference today is going to be a hell of a conference to basically showcase that they have a lot of different features they're working on that the market's not expecting. Probably new chips, potentially new ways to increase their software ARR, because their software business is doing about $1 billion in annual recurring revenue. And then anything else the market doesn't expect, potentially SoundHound might be on stage with Nvidia. There's a ton of different companies that are going to be presenting in conjunction with what Nvidia is doing. SoundHound up another 1% in the pre-markets, now $9, up 6% on Friday. And that's giving an overall lift to the market. So what my fear is that Nvidia comes out and they smash this conference and that the market gets super excited. People buy up the stock, AI, productivity, everyone buys up everything. And then on Wednesday, the Fed says, we don't think that the market's in a good spot. I think the Fed is probably going to say, hey, we're definitely not cutting rates. We're not raising rates. We're just keeping rates the way we are. And as long as Jay Powell doesn't say anything different than what he said over the past 2 months, which is that, hey, the data is the data and we will cut rates when we see good data, I think the market should probably stabilize. Think about this. We had a hot CPI report last week. Wasn't enough to take down the market. Then we had a hot PPI last week. And on Friday, we saw a dip. But it's, it's not like it was a massive dip. It was actually okay. IWM up about 0.35% in the pre-market, 203. So it doesn't seem like Jay Powell's going to say anything that crazy outside of raising rates, which he's not going to say. And it seems like the show goes on as long as Nvidia really puts up some amazing performances today and shows the market what they want to see, which is that AI is going to be implicating every part of their business. And this thing's going to grow even more than what we expected. And as a result, Palantir is getting a little bit of a boost in the pre-markets as well. Meta 490 up 1.39%. Bitcoin, we'll talk more about it in a second, but that's 68,000. Adobe is up a little bit, 0.44%. Adobe did fall 13%. And that's another thing. Seeing Adobe fell 13% was really, really good, because that means that the market is not rewarding companies that are not putting up the numbers, which goes to show you we are not in a bubble. If the market's taking Adobe down $35 billion in market cap, it means that the market's actually looking for real solid numbers to justify earnings, which is good. Obviously you want to see Adobe shareholders do well, but you definitely do want to see companies punished if they don't put up the numbers, which is important because it goes to show that not just any random thing is going up. Robinhood 1825 in the pre-markets. We'll see if we can hold 18. This is the second. It closed above 18 for 2 days in a row. We'll see if this can make it 3 days. If Robinhood continues these days of $18, then maybe we're past the $17 range for Robinhood and we can look toward that $19, $20 range that I think can be possible for this company. Elf Beauty is up 1.31%, Dollar General up 0.13%, and Apple up 1.2%. Google now is up 5.28%, 148.64. We'll see if Google can continue to get there. Amit, have you seen the new Figure video? If you're talking about, well, obviously I saw the one that came out last week. So if there's a new one, you can link it to me in the chat. Figure might be at the conference as well with NVIDIA. Obviously, NVIDIA will probably be talking about robotics and the implication of AI there. So they might be showing off some robotics companies. And I'll be streaming it live, I think 12 p.m. So 12 p.m. I'll be live on the channel and we'll see what Jensen has to say and all the different stuff they will be talking about. Speaking of the conference, let's get an update on it and let's see what we're looking for in this conference for today. Here we go.
Kicking off its AI Developers Conference today. Let's find out what investors can expect from the 4-day event. Joining us now is Doug Clinton, Deepwater Asset Management, founder and managing partner. 4 days is there should be a lot of info coming out of it. Doug, what are the highlights going to be? No one knows, obviously, but what do you expect?
I think the big thing that everyone is looking for, Joe, is the announcement of the B100, which is NVIDIA's newest high-end AI accelerator chip. It's said to be about 2x faster than their current high-end chip, the H200, and it'll cost probably 20 to 30% more than the H200 as well. So you're getting 2x performance, which is what the specs show right now for the B100 versus the H200. You're only paying 20 to 30% more. I think NVIDIA is going to try to make this a pitch to all of the hyperscalers and other big entities that are building AI infrastructure that they can get even better chips from NVIDIA at a better price. Even though it's a higher price, the performance is better.
So does this help with NVIDIA kind of has a moat in certain parts of AI in terms of designing a system, maybe not as much in the deployment of it, but does this help in terms of beating back the competition, which is you got to think that it's coming and on the horizon. It's such a lucrative place to be.
I mean, AMD has been a ferocious competitor. They put out their high-end chip late last year, the MI300. With the new B100, we'll start to see on the memory side, that's one important difference between what AMD did with their last chip and what NVIDIA currently has in the market. We'll see them take a step up in terms of how much memory they have on board this chip. So to your point, Joe, I think it does put them back in the clear pole position when we get this B100 announcement. And the ecosystem as well. I mean, that's the other big thing that has always been an advantage for NVIDIA, the CUDA software system. Obviously, everyone is used to using NVIDIA hardware. And so that's a really powerful advantage. They do still need to stay in the lead on the technology front. I think today's conference will show that they are still there.
It's going to be exciting, dude. NVIDIA is going to show off some stuff that the market might not be expecting, and that's just going to get more and more people excited to see that this company truly is one of the most exciting companies in the world. Here's a stat that I think is going to blow everybody's mind. I saw the stat last night. NVIDIA is cheaper than Tesla on a forward PE basis after Tesla being down 30% year to date and after NVIDIA being up 80% year to date. NVIDIA is at 35.7 for their forward PE. Tesla's at 52.63, which is that just blew my mind. NVIDIA is up 80%. Tesla's down 30%. You would think Tesla would be dirt cheap, but because NVIDIA is growing so much better than Tesla, obviously Tesla interest rates have hurt their growth dramatically, right? It's interest rate prone. Tesla's actually more expensive than NVIDIA. So one of those stats that just goes to show you how incredible NVIDIA's growth is and how exciting the company has been over the past year as they've just massively grown. Let's go through a couple of different headlines and then we'll get into the China TikTok stuff and we'll get an update on that. Joe Lonsdale, co-founder of Palantir, was on CNBC today, so we'll see what he has to say. Okay, a couple of headlines. Apple and the AirPods. Apple suppliers are reportedly nearing the start of production for the next AirPod line. Plans are to produce 20 million to 25 million units, which is an increase over prior new models. I don't know what these AirPods are going to look like, but we've got new AirPods coming out. I still have the AirPods from the original, the ones that came out like in 2016. I never found the need to upgrade. Either I'm cheap or I really don't see the difference in upgrading to AirPod Pros. So apparently there's new AirPods coming out, and this is from Bloomberg. We will have 20 to 25 million more AirPod Pros being constructed than what we thought. Taiwan Semiconductors is reportedly looking at building advanced chip packaging capacities in Japan. So seeing a little bit more diversification from TSM into different parts of the world, obviously getting different avenues, supply chains, logistics all across the world. Obviously going to be a very important thing for Taiwan Semis. Their stock also up phenomenally this year. Them, Nvda, AMD, all of them been in the same direction. China sees a 9% year-on-year decrease in property investments for January through February. We talked a little bit on the market close. I'll probably go more in depth on it later this week on the market open. But China's economy obviously is in the gutter, and real estate values, which are 70% of middle-class people's net worth is their real estate, has also declined dramatically. So in January and February, they saw a 9% decrease year on year in property investment. This is not just U.S. investment, but this is domestic investment as well. Obviously, the United States is very weary of investing in China, but also domestically in China, it seems like they're having a hard time justifying the investment. So that's what we have in the context of China, and that's only going to be hurting their plans further over the next year to expand. Here's another stat on China that was interesting. So we are seeing a massive reversal in the flow of investment dollars from the US to China and India in just 2 years. Modi, which is the prime minister of India, is taking full advantage of the Xi-led China reversal in fortune. So as you can see right here on this chart, this is the first time investment in China is turning negative, quarterly foreign direct investment inflows to China, and how that's likely going to India instead of China. Now, one more headline before we talk about TikTok. Remember everyone who was basically shitting on Figure for putting out their video? Brett, the CEO of Figure, says, "We trained an end-to-end neural net which ingests camera pixels, outputs trajectories on a humanoid robot performing bimanual manipulation while talking to a human. Perhaps one of the greatest AI demos on a humanoid in human history. The Doomer's reaction is the real," because people are like, oh, it's saying so it has to be fake. Brett understands social media really well, and it seems like he's having fun with all the haters trying to poo-poo his demo. So here's a video he shared about this controversy.
Hey, ChatGPT, can you describe a nice kitchen scene, but make it very casual and breathe and say and things that sound very natural while you're describing?
Sure thing. Picture this. You're in this cozy kitchen, right? The sun's peeking through the curtains, giving that warm glow. You can almost smell the aroma of fresh coffee brewing. There's this gentle hum of the fridge in the background, kind of soothing, And
so this is a AI basically being prompted to say and sound normal, which is what I said during the video when I saw all the Tesla people saying, "Oh my God, it said it's fake," and I was like, they probably just trained it to sound more human-like. And so you got Brett basically saying a big middle finger to all these people who are trying to really defame innovation at scale because they're so obsessed with protecting Tesla, when in reality, I think Elon is excited that there's more innovation happening right now. So that's one thing to clear up Figure's perspective on everything going on here in the context of their new video. Here's Joe Lonsdale, co-founder of Palantir, discussing TikTok, why it needs to be banned, and what's going on in the world of China and U.S. politics.
Reddit and much more. Joe Lonsdale, 8VC founding partner in Palantir, co-founder. Where do you want to start? You want to start TikTok? You want to start? I mean, the whole situation we saw with AI. I worry about AI for a lot of reasons, but a woke AI that's infected with the woke mind virus. How can we prevent? Isn't it inevitable that one of the AI sites is going to be that way, just from who's putting in the garbage in, garbage out?
The Apple news is a little bit funny. A lot of us looked at Gemini and said, "What in tarnation?" And Apple said, "We have to have that." It's a little bit ridiculous. Now that said,
I wondered about that though, because it also said they were in negotiations with OpenAI. They could just be negotiating with everybody right now.
They probably are. And listen, Google does have a very strong AI team and all these things. So the Reddit IPO is the big news right now. Reddit is very similar to these other companies. Reddit has some really helpful parts if you're a nerd trying to learn physics. If you're doing like hard technical things, there's really good things on Reddit. And yet you saw the big risk in their IPO is that they have people basically moderating everything by hand. And these people, part of their compensation, because they're not paid, so their compensation is that they get to be ideological. And so they have this very ideological workforce, which is going to teach the AI to be woke as well. So
Workforce.
I mean, you workforce,
Volunteers,
volunteers working for free. And part of the reason they can work for free is they get to impose their ideology, right? So it's a very funny culture you got in the tech company, and all these tech companies.
So we have that ideology, which I want no part of, and then we got the CCP ideology, which do you think is a real threat?
I think it's frankly a bigger threat. I think it's frankly a bigger threat. I mean, obviously the confidence in the U.S. is a big deal, and we have to make U.S. competent and overcome that. But I think China is very scary. I think giving them access, as AI gets better, giving them access to 100 million of our people over TikTok is insane. And this is not a ban we're talking about. This is talking about not letting CCP own this. It's not allowed to own the New York Times. It's not allowed, to own. Rupert Murdoch had to become a U.S. citizen.
CCP doesn't own the New York Times now. They come up with all that stuff on their own.
I'm not a huge fan there. But I think this is just how the world works. You can't give your adversary, and you have a crazy dictator in charge there.
This, I think, is pretty important because we get wrapped up in the stuff where we're shooting at ourselves with these things. It's very different when you're talking about the CCP or you're talking about Putin. Those are actual threats to our democracy. But when you have 100 million Americans or 170 million Americans saying, I want my MTV, I want my TikTok, what happens? Because I see this slowing down in the Senate already. And senators saying, yeah, we're glad that the House voted for it, but we're not going to do that. What happens? How does this play out?
I think there are some concerns by putting out, like David Sachs, Elon Musk, others on the right are saying we want to make sure this is not giving the president the power to go after any platform they want. And, my reading of the bill is actually that CFIUS powers are already a superset of these things for that. Sure. And so I actually don't think this bill creates that, but I think they should be very clear the bill does not create extra power for someone to go after Elon Musk or to go after, frankly, Meta. But they need to go after CCP and TikTok and fix it. And I think this is your duty as an American, and it's really important they do this.
You think the senators will withstand that, though? We talked about how some House members were getting 20 calls a minute when TikTok put up to say, contact your representative to say you want to keep us. I mean,
and that's why they responded 50-0 against TikTok, because they saw how powerful that was for the CCP. I think any senator that's pro-America and that's doing their duty is gonna fix this, and is gonna take TikTok away from the CCP.
I think X is more essential than ever. At this point, I've been starting to come around to that conclusion.
You need one place that's not ideologically censored that way, right? And so it's. I mean, listen. There's all these sites are important.
Are you shocked at some of the stuff you see on mainstream media that they have definitely abdicated their responsibility for trying to represent both sides because they think that they have a role to play as far as activism because they think it's that important. And I think if they think, for example, if they think Biden versus Trump, there are people in mainstream media that are definitely part of the Biden team. They're going to do anything they can possibly do at this point to make sure Trump is not reelected.
I think the level of faction in this country is very unhealthy. I think you go back similarly to times and empires are not doing well, like Rome and others, and the internal faction, they hate each other more than they hate the barbarians that are going to conquer them and take them down, and that's very dangerous.
But they don't deny it.
Now, I mean, Joe Lonsdale's making a good point there, and obviously that's why he's thinking we need to get rid of TikTok, is that there's so much internal division between the Democrats and Republicans in the United States that it kind of leads us to not realize there is actually a ulterior adversary that all of us should be paired against. One of the interesting things that David Sachs, who's a colleague of Joe Lonsdale, said over the weekend on the All In podcast was that he believes that if TikTok is banned or divested or anything of that nature, it's going to create a precedent given the wording of the current bill that was passed 50-0 in the not 50-0, it was passed in the House like 360-50. That will allow the United States to basically use the foreign adversarial threat wording as justification to go after companies like X that potentially are being manipulated by foreign adversaries, right? Like Elon has a lot of business in China. One could argue that, is China somehow controlling Elon to control X? Not the best argument, but that is an argument that can be deduced from the wording of the bill. So there are a lot of people that are saying, look, we obviously need to get rid of TikTok and we need to do something about it. But we definitely can't do it in the way this bill proposes because every bill in the United States is really based off precedents in previous bills. That's how the entire Supreme Court works. It's based off the idea of a precedent. And so that's why every decision is so important because it sets a precedent for future decisions. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. I still don't think the Senate's going to ban it. Also, by the way, I've got to show you guys someone who you probably don't know. Okay. Maybe some of you guys do know him, but here's a guy I'm pretty sure you guys don't know. So why did Trump after 4 years of saying TikTok is cancer, TikTok should be banned. Remember, TikTok came out in 2020. Trump was ready to ban them in August of 2020 after 3 months of the pandemic, where TikTok had grown to like almost 1 billion users in like literally 3 months, right? Everyone was watching that app during the pandemic. It was just growing like wildfire. Trump was ready to ban them in August 2020. So 2 weeks ago, when he said, actually, if we ban TikTok, Meta is going to be an enemy of the people, blah, 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 blah. What kind of changed this tone that quickly? I think I found out over the weekend. Here's a guy you may not know named Jeffrey Yass. Jeffrey Yass. Jeffrey Yass is one of the largest political contributors to Donald Trump's campaign. Jeffrey Yass has a net worth of $27 billion. Now, you may be wondering, how did this guy become, worth $27 billion? He is the owner of Susquehanna Group, which is, or otherwise known as SIG, S-I-G, which is one of the biggest prop trading firms on Wall Street. These guys make billions and billions of dollars in profit per year on advanced quantitative trading. They're a quant trading firm. Now, I said his market, his net worth is $28 billion. 21 out of those 28 billion are his stake in ByteDance. This guy invested in ByteDance in 2012, which is like, TikTok's parent company. And now his stake is 15%, which translates into a personal stake of 7%. So he legitimately owns 7% of TikTok, which is worth roughly 21 billion based on the company's recent valuation, or much of his $28 billion net worth. So he's worth 28 billion, but he's only basically worth 7 billion from Susquehanna Group, and he's worth 21 billion off TikTok. He has been donating to politicians. If you go through this article, I'll put it in the description. Basically, over the past couple of years, he's been donating a lot of money to Republican opposition groups who are against TikTok, which makes sense. I mean, the more you learn about the world and business and finance and politics, everyone is self-interested in their own lives. Everyone's talking to that person or investing in these people or forming these types of alliances because the entire world is run on self-interest. And you just kind of hope that the world functions properly while everyone focusing on their own self-interest eventually combines to be maybe a greater good for the greatest amount of people. But it makes sense that now he's donating to Trump. It seems very obvious Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. It seems even more obvious, in my opinion, not a political declaration, but in my opinion, it does look likely that I think Trump will win the election if we were to have the election tomorrow. And you want someone in the White House who's not going to ban TikTok. Trump, out of nowhere, is against banning TikTok, and it looks like because he's getting a decent amount of money from Jeffrey Yass. So that might actually be the reason, as Suri says, Peter says, always follow the money. Yep, always got to follow the money. And, there you go. That's why Trump seems to be against it. And by the way, I don't blame Trump. Trump's got to win the election. He's probably like, you know what? Screw TikTok. I've got to win the election and stop all these other things. So if I have to concede TikTok to get the money to be able to run in the election, then maybe I'll, concede TikTok and I'll move on from there. And as a result, Trump, one of the greatest marketers on the planet, he's able to sort of, make the argument that Facebook's the enemy of the people. If we ban TikTok, then Facebook's going to have too much power. It's like, that's probably better than the Chinese government having all that power. But nonetheless, Trump is able to make that argument. And by the way, the Democrats and Joe Biden is also able to make that argument as well, right? Everyone is interested in their own self-interest. I think as you grow older, that is the fundamental truth you become aware to. And the question is just, how do those self-interests align in a way to get everyone to work together? So really interesting to see how that played out. By the way, I was watching something over the weekend. Robinhood right now, 18.29, Palantir 23.84. Joe Biden has one of the best economies you could ever have in regards to the stock market. Unemployment going dramatically, 3.9%, which is nothing. And inflation being beaten from 10% now down to about 3%. And he's not really marketing it the way he should be marketing. I mean, the podcast I was listening to, the guy was basically like, if Trump had this economy, he would be marketing this economy as the greatest economy in the world. And we know there's some cracks in the economy here and there, but in general, people have jobs. Companies are putting up good earnings. AI is creating even more revenue, and stock market's doing well. And it's kind of crazy that Joe Biden's kind of concerned about blaming corporations about like shrinkflation and how you don't have enough ice cream in the ice cream box anymore, versus just bragging about the fact that this is one of the best economies ever. One of the reasons Joe Biden might win the election at the end of the year is simply because the economy is so good, people don't want to mess it up by creating a lot of instability and having Trump in the office. But if Joe Biden's not really like accentuating that message, then maybe people feel that the economy is actually bad. So it's really interesting to see how these politicians are framing these different arguments. And obviously, Trump getting money from Jeffrey Yass, likely because Jeffrey Yass has a stake in TikTok and wants to protect that stake from being banned. Bitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin. We got 3 minutes till the market opens. Bitcoin, 67,839. Why is Bitcoin down? Well, it seems like over the weekend, there was a forced liquidation, which is what caused Bitcoin to come down. I actually think the Bitcoin drop is very reasonable and pretty healthy for the broader market. So here's what we got from Fred Kruger, which is a Bitcoin maxi. I actually asked him if he can come on my channel and he said yes. So we're trying to set that up. If you guys know him, this guy's been in Bitcoin for decades now, and he's been here since the very beginning. So he said on March 4th, we had one giant $800 million liquidation. On March 14th, 15th, 16th, we crossed 1 billion in liquidated Bitcoin. This is forced selling. It happens fast. It pushes down prices aggressively, especially if there's no buying pressure to match. Friday was $200 million of inflows. Saturday, obviously, there were zeros inflows because the market was closed. But when the liquidations end, the prices tend to snap back. Look at what happened on March 4th through 6th. Panic dropped 10%. Then we get back up 24 hours later. And he's correct on that. If you see, we saw that nasty 10% decline, and then we just pulled back right to that $69,000 level around March 6th. So I think liquidations are happening at a massive scale for the leveraged longs and the leveraged shorts when it comes to Bitcoin. I think the drop we saw from 73 to 67 was pretty much planned over the weekend. I don't think a bunch of people woke up and they were like, hey, I'm selling my Bitcoin at 73,000. Like, that stuff doesn't tend to happen, especially not before the halving event. Even the most basic of the basic people that have Bitcoin know that this thing's probably not stopping anytime soon. And most people, by the way, don't tend to sell the top. Most people do not tend to sell the top. So even if Bitcoin was falling from 73 to 67, it wouldn't be retail, because retail doesn't know that the top is 73, because the top's probably not 73. But even if it was, you wouldn't know. So it does seem like that was a little bit more forced than not. And now it's just a question of, when it will recover and when those inflows will come back in. Right now, you saw Bitcoin actually go to 64,520. So it fell almost 8,000 points from 73, almost 9,000 points. And it recovered pretty nicely to 68. And now we'll just see how we can get back into that $70,000 range. All right. Here we go. It is Monday morning, March 18th. Big day for the stock market. Big day for Nvda. Big day for the Fed this week. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Let's get into it. The market is now once again open, and it's time to see what we've got going on. Bitcoin right here, 68,000. Nvda, 903, opening up 2.7% on the day, $903 on Nvda. Let's see how that holds up, but it's up another 25 points. SoundHound up 1.35%. S&P up a whole 1%. Incredible for the S&P. 514 right now. Was at 509 on Friday. We saw that dip. Like, even the small dip we got on Friday was not sustainable to continue dipping. It was the one red day we got in, like, what is it, a couple weeks of the S&P. I mean, we had some other red days, but like a decently red day. And there we go, right back up, 514 up on Monday morning. Google, 149, up 6%. That one piece of news from Bloomberg has got the market excited, because they think Apple's going to benefit a lot from Gemini, and Gemini is going to have more distribution than OpenAI. It is a good concern. I mean, if Gemini is on 2 billion iPhones doing generative AI tasks, because Apple and Google have partnered, what does that mean for ChatGPT? Why do I have to open up the ChatGPT app on my phone if I can just ask Siri to schedule me a meeting? Like, it's a really interesting a value proposition that makes you think as a thought project where Google's going to go and where Apple could benefit from, and where that leaves Microsoft. Baba 73, Enphase 107, Tesla 168, up 3%. Robinhood basically flat, down 0.06%, 1815 on the day. Palantir 2382, up 1.32%. Where's SoFi? Oh my God, SoFi is down. What the fuck, man? Goodness gracious, dude. SoFi 694, down 1.29%. It is what it is. SoFi now $6.92. We'll go back to what happens with SoFi, but it opens red today on, it seems like, a green day. Adobe up 1.24%. On, the shoe brand that is down 0.69%. Me and Chris still doing DD on this one. Also, by the way, me and Chris will have that Snowflake podcast that I was talking about this week. And we're going to do a podcast on another company that I'm forgetting. But last week he was in New York, so we weren't able to do it. But we will have that Snowflake podcast this week. SMCI up a whopping 6%. Why? Because if Nvidia's up, SMCI's got to be up. Snapchat's up a little bit. ELF is up 2%. Celsius down a little bit, 92.66. UiPath up 0.66. And Monster up 0.65 as well. Nvidia now 913. Nvidia now $913. It's up 4% on the day. Robinhood 1825 up 0.5 or 0.66% on the day. And Google's at 150. Google is officially now at $150. Where's PayPal? Where's PayPal? Where's PayPal? I think PayPal's up. Oh my goodness, PayPal 64.19. Oh my God. PayPal's actually up 2%. Guys, this is a big deal. PayPal is not up 2% in the pre-market ever. Like ever. Even last week, it was up like 0.3%. Why is PayPal breaking out? I think the market's a little excited about what's happening with PayPal. Maybe the buybacks are happening. Maybe the market's finally switching sentiment. But it seems like PayPal might be switching out. Also seems like PayPal seems to have invested in a digital payment solution company called PPRO. I'm getting that news right now. PPRO is a company that's in, they just got funded by BlackRock, JP Morgan, PayPal Ventures, HPE Growth. And I think they're a European company, PPRO, if anyone's heard of it, ppro.com. Seems like these guys are a European company. PayPal just invested in them. That's probably not why the stock is up, but that is a piece of news that I just wanted to tell you guys that I'm seeing. PayPal, wow, 64.45. Oh my goodness, dude. PayPal's actually showing some signs of life right now. Holy crap. Wow, PayPal. Wow. This is pretty cool, dude. This is pretty cool. PayPal's actually getting some love. All right, so PayPal's at 64, Nvidia's 911, Google 150. Google up almost 7% on the day. That's not an easy thing to do either, guys. Google, $1.8 trillion company, going up 7% is not easy. And it seems like that news was enough to get it up 7%. Palantir 23.77, Tesla 168. Tesla also having a great day, up 3%. Palantir up 1.13%. IWM 203. ARK Innovation 48.98. Where's Coinbase? Let me go to the crypto stocks. Coinbase right now up 0.57%. CleanSpark's down 1%, but they were up 10% over Friday, so that's not too bad. Marathon's up a little bit. Hut 8 Mining's up a little bit. Robinhood 1831 up almost 1%. MicroStrategy down 4%, but that's okay. I mean, Bitcoin fell, so MicroStrategy is going to fall. Some people thought MicroStrategy would be down like 10% on Monday. Bitcoin did recover from 64 to 68, and down 3% is not that big of a deal. MicroStrategy obviously doing the convertible debt for $525 million. So eventually they will be purchasing some more Bitcoin, and I think Saylor probably wants to buy it at some of these lower prices now instead of having to buy it at 70,000. So we'll see when that happens. But MicroStrategy down about 4% on Bitcoin being down. Coinbase 242, Robinhood 1830 on the day. Golden Eagle said, I told you last week I was selling PayPal at a loss. That is the only reason it's up. Yeah, that's Golden Eagle took one for the team. Dude, I was close to selling PayPal, but in my head, I was just like, the one thing that stopped me from selling it was like, they're buying back 7% of the company. At some point, either I'm an idiot, or when you buy back 7% of the stock, the float just becomes significantly smaller, and Wall Street starts to notice that. And then they tend to realize like, hey, this is not a company that's dead. It's a company that's actually growing, 9% year over year, which for PayPal is not bad. Maybe it shouldn't be worth what it was worth in 2017. And my bet was that, by the end of the summer, that will probably play out. Now, I could still be wrong about that, but we're seeing a little bit of momentum here at 64, back above that $57 range that we were stuck at when it comes to PayPal. AMD 191, so not really getting the Nvidia bump that some of these other companies are getting. Let's go to the semis playlist. Everything is green. Lam Research is green. ARM is up another 3%. Marvell's up 1%. Taiwan Semi up another 4%. Now $732 billion market cap. Intel is up 1%. SMH must be up. The semis ETF. Nvidia 915. Yeah, there you go. That's up 2%. Semi's doing great. Semi's doing amazing right now. Semi's doing incredible. Adobe above 500. Adobe getting some love. Obviously, it fell a lot, but now people buying some of the dip on Adobe. SoFi still struggling. I don't know what it is about SoFi anymore, guys. I really don't. I think it's one of those situations where the stock is hated, but the companies we know is doing well, and eventually the stock will reflect the company doing well. But it's just not performed, dude. If you would have told me when I bought SoFi at $4 back in May of 20, do you guys remember it felt like 480 when I was buying SoFi then in May 2023, that it would only be at 691 a year from now? I would have bet so much money that wouldn't happen. I would just be like, no, there's no way. Wow, it just hit 689. It just went below 690. I would have said that's not going to happen. And unfortunately, that is happening. And it is what it is. So yeah, there we go. It's good I sold half my sister's options when it was at $11. Because now, I mean, if SoFi goes to $12, she'll make like 30 grand. But even now, it's looking like, is 12 possible by the end of the year? It has to happen by January 2025 for her options to print. Her options went from being up 15,000 to being up like 8,000 now because SoFi fell to 690. All of it's free money because we took out her initial, but still, we'll see where it goes from here. I do think that $12 end of year is not crazy. I think SoFi will eventually have a breakout. I just think right now it's hated by the street, and eventually, they need to do something for it not to be hated by the street. Noto maybe needs to take some of that Twitter money and buy some damn shares. That's what needs to happen. Amit, when is that big interview? It'll be March 27th. I'll be doing the interview in person with the person I told you. Well, the person I didn't tell you I was doing the interview with, but the interview that is happening. And it'll probably be posted a couple days after that. So March 27th, that interview will be happening. And then on the channel, it'll be posted a couple days after. It'll be a fun one. I think you guys will enjoy the interview. And I made sure we had to do it in person. I didn't want to do a Zoom interview. I was like, can we please do this in person? And they were like, yes, that's fine. So I'll be going to New York. That day, I will not be able to do a market open, by the way. March 27th, I will not be able to do a market open because I'm going to be in New York and going to be doing that interview, but it'll be posted a couple days after. SoFi is building tension upwards. Wait until the next earnings. That might also happen. The tension might be getting set, and then eventually they crush their numbers and it just bursts out, which could happen. It's just the street has to stop shorting it. And that 17% short float has to start to go down. Google 150, that's up 6.8%. Nvda 921. Nvidia's up 5% on the day. That is not easy for Nvidia to be up 5%, dude. It is just not easy at all. But Nvidia's up 5%. Now, the question is, in this conference, what are they going to say that keeps the market excited? Because if they say something that the market's not excited for, that might tank it. But if it's up 5% in anticipation of this, I don't think they're going to say anything that crazy that gets the market a little scared. Apple's breaking out. Let's look at Apple. Let me pull that up in a second. Where's Apple? Okay, Apple. Wow, 176. You're right. It's breaking out as well. 2%. Holy crap. Goodness gracious. Apple and Google are both breaking out. The Mag 7. Look at the Mag 7 right now. Tesla, Nvidia, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, just green across the board. Google now 151. Oh my goodness. Google has it touched 152. So as of today, Google has erased all of their losses from the Gemini controversy around not putting up images of white people and the stock fell to 131. You know what's interesting about this? Brad Gerstner has been saying Google is going to die for a long time. And Brad Gerstner has also been saying that this stock, let's see if it's up today. Wow, Snowflake's down, is gonna go up. So both of his plays are wrong right now. Brad Gerstner, he's the manager of the Altimeter fund, Altimeter Capital. He said Google was gonna die and Snowflake was gonna moon. Snowflake has gone down on an atrocious 35% from earnings, just absolutely disgusting on Snowflake. And Google has recovered everything that they've lost from the Gemini issues. Now, the question about Google is this a little bit of a trap? Because obviously we still know some of the fundamentals of Google haven't changed. LLMs are still taking over search. Some of their core business eventually is going to become commoditized. More LLM models are coming out every day. They don't really have a plan to monetize generative AI in the same way they had a plan to monetize the 10 blue links. Or is the Apple partnership going to be so gigantic that maybe Apple pays them instead of Google paying Apple? Who knows what that looks like? And that's going to create another vector of growth for Google. And Brad Gerstner ends up being wrong on the Google trade, which when Google was going to 130, he seemed like he was right. And maybe he's not correct on that one. John says, the real question is this actually good for Apple or is it a sign of incompetence? I definitely think it's a sign of incompetence to an extent. I definitely think if Apple needs to partner with Gemini to be able to do generative AI tasks that they were not working on this. All the time Apple was spending working on the car, they were not working on Gemini or not working on a competitor to a ChatGPT or Gemini. And obviously they pivoted really quickly in the past 2 weeks. But, WWDC is going to be in June. They have to release a new iPhone in a couple months. Question becomes, are they going to be able to unveil some software that's reasonable enough for the iPhone 16 to be something you want to upgrade to. And it seems like Tim Cook's accepting defeat, that they don't have enough Gemini powers, or they don't have enough AI powers. And so Gemini is what has to enter in. Google right now up 7.3%. Now, granted, even though that's weakness in Apple, I do think that's exciting for Apple, because as long as they are a generative AI player, they will grow, or the argument is they should be growing better than 2% year over year. But if they have to give up some of that supremacy to Google, then maybe long-term, their AI moat is not as sophisticated as what some of these other companies are working on. Robinhood 1818, Palantir 2365, Meta 490, Save, Spirit Airlines 1.7% down. We had another problem with Boeing on Friday night. Let me pull up that issue we had with Boeing so you guys can see. Here's the tweet. So this was on Friday night. We talked about Boeing on the market open. And this is what I saw Friday afternoon. So here you go. United Airlines Boeing 737 loses a panel mid-flight. Flight 433 had just taken off from San Francisco and was forced to divert to an Oregon airport. Thankfully, the plane landed safely and no injuries have been reported. But the fact that it lost a panel mid-flight and they had to divert to a different airport, I mean, dude, it's scary stuff. It's scary, scary, scary stuff. So there you go right now. More and more issues from Boeing continuing to happen as we see that going. Peace Chess, thank you for the $5 super chat. It took me just 35 seconds to load the buy button on SoFi brokerage. Maybe that's why it's down. The app legit is awful and you don't trust the CTO at all. Yeah, I mean, look, that's another reason that SoFi is down. I think we've all been complaining about the app for a while, and either they're going to fix the app or they're not going to listen to us. I don't think the app makes them that much money, which is why they don't care. I think they make so much more money off lending, which is what I've always felt. SoFi is a lending business versus a brokerage business, so the app doesn't matter as much. But obviously, if you want to be an integrated financial ecosystem and have everyone, going through this one app, if the lending business or if the app is broken or it's just not doing well, then you're going to get a lot of people that are not excited, right? So that is one of the reasons why SoFi probably also isn't doing the best with people thinking that SoFi can do well. One of the other problems with the app is that the load time to get onto the app versus just like the load time to do the buy button. If you can't get into the app, it's harder to deposit money. And if you can't deposit money, deposits are going to go, right? There's so many different cascading factors that happen if they can't get a lot of that stuff together. Let's look at Tesla. Right now, Tesla continuing to do well. Tesla was hit on Friday. Boeing right now 177, Tesla 166. So it's not 170 anymore. It got sold off a little bit, but 17.5%. That FSD plus price increase is happening across the Model Y. Maybe he's getting the street a little bit more excited for what can happen with Tesla. The entire market taking a little bit of a dip. Palantir going down 2358, Robinhood 1809. So we're seeing the market decline just a little bit, which is okay. That tends to happen in the beginning of the market, and eventually it picks back up towards the middle of the day. We've seen it happen many, many times, and we'll see that Nvda conference and see where that goes from there. SoFi now falling well below that 690 range, 686, down 2.3%. Not good. Not good at all. Arnie says not good advertising for Galileo. Yeah, I mean, look, if they have a tech side to the platform and the tech is not even opening correctly, I mean, look, it's not good, man. It's not good. At the end of the day, SoFi is a bank. I know a lot of people got mad at me for saying that, and I'm long SoFi, so I'm not just saying that to say that. I am long SoFi, but it is a bank. It is a bank. I mean, Data-Driven Investing made that post a long time ago. Why is Palantir going up and SoFi is not going up? And I said, dude, it's just a bank. And then I got so much hate. Everyone got so mad at me for saying, dude, it's just a bank. But it's just a bank. There's a reason Palantir is up 40% year to date. It's not a bank. SoFi is a bank. Banks have a lot more risks. Arnie, I was talking to him over the weekend. He used to work at an investment bank. I mean, banks are risky. There's a lot of delinquencies and risks and all this stuff. And I'm still long SoFi. I still think it's very undervalued. I bought 30 more call options on Friday. So I feel like I'm allowed to critique them a bit because I'm buying and I'm excited for them, but it's still a bank, and I guess we have to temper our expectations. Anyone who thought maybe $20, $25 probably has to go back down to maybe 10 or $12 maybe by the end of the year until this bad boy breaks out. And the other part of the tech platform, the AWS of fintech thing, that's not producing substantial amounts of revenue yet. And that's the reason. If you look at the first video on my channel, why I invested in SoFi, that was the reason. I invested in SoFi because I was like, oh, if they have a tech side to the platform, they're going to get SaaS margins, which means this bank is not going to be valued as a bank. And it's already, growing members like crazy. So that'll be the growth curve for SoFi. That just hasn't proven out to be true yet. and it might take some more time to get there. Nvidia 922 up 5% right now. Not bad at all for Nvidia. Al Rodriguez says 11 to 15 is a fair price. I agree. I 1000% agree. Just might take some time to get there. It might not happen that quickly. Amid, if they get 3 more quarters of profitable growth, do you still think it would be 7? No, but I didn't think it would be 7 last year when it was at $11. I was like, there's no way this is going back down to 7. And every company has outperformed since then, and SoFi just hasn't. So it's a combination of banks on Wall Street not wanting SoFi to succeed because they're a bank, even though that's such a weird argument because JP Morgan is $7 trillion. Why do they care about SoFi? Like SoFi's not eating their lunch, right? And then on top of that, I guess the price to sales is kind of on par with what a traditional price to sales is for a bank. And so the market's kind of like, well, it's kind of properly valued, even though their growth is substantial. 3 more quarters of profitable growth. I do not expect them to still be $7, but there's got to be more whales that are excited for SoFi at the end of the day. And right now it's not there. Why not shares of SoFi? Well, I think shares of SoFi right now are not as exciting as options. I mean, look, the stock's at $6. If we think fair value is 11 to 15, that's a 100% jump in the stock price. That could be a quintupling in the options. So to me, options are much more exciting than the actual stock right now, just given how deeply undervalued it has become. Let me show you guys my options. I'm down on these bad boys. So I am down $886 on these options. These are $17, $20 Jan 2026 spreads. And I have 157 of them. Camera just died. And my average cost for these are 24 cents. So these are right now 100. These are right now 18 cents. So these are the options I have. Look, I think eventually it'll be fine, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Right now it is still a question of where is SoFi going to go. Okay, cool. So that was SoFi. PayPal, let me show you guys the PayPal options. These are now only down 3,500. These were down 6,000 last week. So we're making a little bit of headway in the PayPal options. A little bit of momentum there. And we'll see. Maybe the PayPal options eventually go green by the end of the year. That's going to be exciting if that happens. Keep Pouncer until 2035. Yeah. I mean, again, the other thing is if I'm buying stock in something, I want to hold it for a long time. I don't know if I want to hold SoFi for a long time, dude. I really don't. Like, it's a bank at the end of the day. There's so many other banks that are out there. Now, if the tech platform starts becoming exciting, maybe you want to hold it for a long time, but I think the options are way more exciting for the next 2 years versus something like a Palantir that I would rather want to hold for a long time. Palantir 2362, Robinhood falling below 18, 1798, Enphase 107, S&P 514. What time does GTC start? Let me get the exact time. I'm pretty sure it is it's 12 p.m. Let me see right now. It is 5 hours. So it's 9:50, so 10:50, 11:50, 12:50, 1:50, 2:50. Oh wow, it starts at 3 p.m. Really? It starts 1 to 3 p.m. PDT. So that's 4. Oh, so that'll be the market close, guys. The market close will be the event. It'll be 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So basically during the market close, we'll watch the entire stream. Angela says, looking to add more SoFi and Palantir this week, want to avoid the falling knife. Yeah, I mean, look, does SoFi really go to 660 or something? I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, that would be incredible if that happens. Now, granted, I'm saying that and I mean, maybe that happens, but I think 680s should be the bottom. I would hope. If it's not, then I guess it's going to be a tough situation. But I don't think DCAing here is necessarily catching the falling knife. I think it's a good DCA, but I could be wrong, and this thing could be headed a lot lower. SMCI 1120, that's up 5%. Rest of the market's starting to get a little bit red. Coinbase is red. Rumble is red. Big Bear is red. UiPath is red. Dell is red. 105. It's up from their earnings, but they are still red. They were at 130 at one point. Let's look at Bitcoin. Where is Bitcoin right now? Bitcoin 67,000. So that means the ETFs are probably red. Yeah, IBIT's down 2%. ARKB is down 2%. And then Fidelity is down 2% as well. Tesla still holding on to 166 on the day and not necessarily budging from that 166 level. Okay, cool. So we talked about Bitcoin. We talked about some of the stuff going on in the broader equity markets. Couple of other things that I thought were really interesting. Reddit IPO is officially happening. Oh, let me show you guys this. This was really interesting over the weekend. So I found a clip of Warren Buffett speaking about why he doesn't buy IPOs. So for anyone who's thinking of buying IPOs, here's a clip of Buffett and Munger talking about why they've never bought an IPO in their 50 years of investing. And this was when he was asked about why he wasn't buying the Uber IPO back in 2019. And then we'll talk about Reddit.
I would say that in 54 years, well, I don't think Berkshire's ever bought a new issue. I mean, the idea of saying the best place in the world I can put my money is something where all the selling incentives are there, commissions are higher, you know, the animal spirits are rising. I mean, that's going to be better than 1,000 other things I can buy where there is no similar selling enthusiasm and the desire to get the deal done and extra commissions. That's the single best thing to buy on a given day. I mean, it's
and I can't think of a time we've ever done it.
Yeah.
Ever bought an IPO?
Yeah, never bought one.
Yeah. How can it be?
They don't even call us.
Yeah, but how can it be the best single thing to use your money for in a given day is something that they got everybody in the world out pushing it. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily what we're buying is going to work out better, but there have to always be better things than one single issue. If you make one decision on investing, if you can't find something among all the choices we see that is better than something that and like I say, you know, the commissions they've come down, I think, now on this, but I mean, the highest commission thing that a stock salesman could sell a security was the new issue. You know, so you have all this push behind it. We like to buy things where nobody's making a dime selling them to us.
It's actually a hell of a point, dude. It's a hell of a point. I saw this over the weekend and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, look, I think the Reddit IPO is probably going to do well. A report came out over the weekend that it is oversubscribed. It's 6 times oversubscribed. That means there's a lot of demand for that Reddit IPO and shares probably will trade higher than that $31, $35 range. However, just on a matter of principle, why would you want to buy something on a day where every incentive is to sell it? The VCs want to sell it. The bankers want to sell it. The founders, the insiders want to sell it. Like everyone wants to offload. What's the incentive to buy on a day like that where obviously the price might be the highest price you could pay, unless the business is so good that even that price on the day that has all the incentives against selling it are going to create a really good price to be able to buy it for the long term. So now Buffett did end up buying the Nubank IPO and the Snowflake IPO. This was a couple years after that interview came out. So it does seem like probably people on his team thought there were some attractive options in other companies, but there is an argument there for why you would buy an IPO on a day where everyone wants to sell it to you. And the commissions are very high. Uber, 74.68, down 1.82%. I asked the question on Twitter that I asked you guys last week, which is what would be the next Mag 7 if you had to pick the next Mag 7. We saw from that podcast, the big names on this one were Uber, Palantir, AMD, Now, CrowdStrike, Team, and Fiserv. Most people felt Palantir, CrowdStrike, and AMD would be the 3 names they would pick if it came down to picking a new Mag 7. And I agree with that. Uber, one of those companies that might end up being there if they really master what they're doing in the skies and also master what they're doing with freight and logistics. But one of those companies that also is now in the S&P 500. Lululemon is going to have earnings today. Let's talk about earnings, or not today, but they're going to have earnings this week. Let's bring up what companies will have earnings. Not a big week in earnings, but there are some important names that I think are worth discussing. So we're going to have, here's the list of the companies that are going to be presenting. We will have the 5 that stood out to me were Lululemon, Nike, TeraWulf, which is a Bitcoin miner, Accenture, Tencent in the Chinese markets, FedEx also, that's going to be a big one, and then Micron, MU, that's going to be a big one as well, Micron Technologies, which will be an important player in the broader data semiconductor space. So a couple of things that I thought were interesting off this. Accenture did $445 million of revenue last quarter just off generative AI consulting. They did $16 billion in total. I think Accenture is going to probably get that number up 20 to 30%. And obviously they're working with Palantir. They're one of the major players in terms of helping people implement Palantir's AIP. They did an entire boot camp with Palantir in India back in December. I think if Accenture shows that generative AI consulting, like they made almost $500 million just off consulting for generative AI. If that continues to go higher, then I think the AI market, the AI TAM is just going to keep increasing. If a consulting firm can capitalize on AI revenue, these tech companies are obviously going to be able to do that. Nike is very interesting to me. I think the problem with Nike is that they're a boring brand. No one cares about Nike anymore. I mean, all of these other brands are going direct to consumer. All these other companies are building their own different distribution tactics. Nike has a 1.4% dividend. It's only up 16% in the past 5 years. They're big in China. They're not that big anymore in the United States or in North America. They have a lot of lagging sales. They're down 7% year to date. I think Nike's going to drop if there's not any new growth vector. So not really that bullish on Nike. Lululemon just got into the S&P 500. People are paying $78 for basic t-shirts. I think Lululemon is probably going to show that they have a lot of brand equity. And if they continue to show more growth curves for Lulu, that stock can probably go higher than the 225% it's been up in the past 5 years. And they're profitable. PE is not that crazy. So I expect to see more growth in Lululemon as well. Now, Tencent's going to be interesting. That's the heart of Chinese social media, venture capital, and investment operations. They just lost billions of dollars in market cap when China put on a new regulation that says kids cannot get on their video games for more than 3 hours a day. Obviously, that hurts Tencent's advertising business when it comes to video games. So in general, I think they're going to show a crappy earnings because a lot of regulations have been put on them. Alibaba has had a pretty crappy run the past couple of years. And I don't really expect there to be a ton of investor interest into Tencent if the CCP is going to continue to, continue to do whatever they want to do with their own governments. And then TerraWolf, this is a Bitcoin miner. They need to put up some numbers. They've had more dilution. Their stock has not done as well as some of these other Bitcoin miners. So I think that we're going to need to see TerraWolf start to do a little better as well in the context of the Bitcoin mining space. Google right now, 150, continuing to be up 6%. Apple, 177, up almost 3%. PayPal, 63.45. Robin at 17.95, falling below that $18 level. Palantir as well, now red on the day, 23.41. IWM, 201. Bitcoin, 67,423. Tesla, 167, up 2% on the day. But didn't he buy the Snowflake IPO? Yes, he did buy the Snowflake IPO. Snowflake and Nubank, Buffett ended up buying. And also people on Buffett's team. I don't think Buffett particularly cared about buying it, but people did on his team buy those IPOs. Other thing says Nike is still huge. I don't disagree with you. Nike is huge. The problem is I don't think they're innovating as much in the context of brand share. I mean, how many times can you sponsor LeBron James and Kevin Durant? Like this, it's kind of just boring now, right? Like I don't really see the same affinity I have towards Nike like I did in the past. And maybe it's because I'm getting older and I don't care about sports anymore. But Nike, I feel, needs some more innovative ways to get their message out there because there's just so many other brands that are out there that are building their own distribution in the context of Nike. Jimbo says, yeah, I moved on from Nike. Used to wear them a lot, but they're flimsy. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't wear anything from Nike. I was, those Nike Elite socks. I was obsessed with them when I was in high school. I went on Amazon and I typed in Elite socks. They're like socks that like really feel good on your feet and they're comfy and they're made for like when you're running. I found a Chinese brand selling me like 10 pairs for $30. One pair on Nike's website is $25. There's no way in hell I'm paying $25 for one pair versus $30 for 10 pairs. And so I think when you got people that are also a little bit more rational in the cost perspective, they're not going to be buying Nike as much anymore. There's just not that much disposable income to be spending on Nike. DNA, wow. DNA might go under $1. Holy crap. Ginkgo Bioworks falling below $1. Dude, Kathy Wood just not having a good year because she's continuing to buy some garbage. I mean, Coinbase is up almost 80% year to date and ARK is down, and Coinbase is ARK's #1 holding. That just goes to show you how bad some of the other stocks in the ETF are doing. DNA, she has almost 300 million shares of this bad boy. This looks like it's going under $1. And if it does go under $1, I mean, it gets into penny stock territory. I mean, it's already in penny stock territory, but still tough situation to be in for ARK. Very tough situation to be in for ARK. She's betting really big on this one and she's probably going to buy more, but I don't know, dude. At what point will this one go down? Do you still have DNA? No, I sold my DNA at $3 October 2022. And the reason I sold out of it, quite frankly, was I saw the insiders selling so much and I got a little scared. I was just like, they just went public. The insiders already made their money. Why are they selling when they went public at 15 and the stock's at 3? So, I mean, I bought at $2.90. I sold at $3. So I made like 10 cents. I made nothing, right? Like it wasn't anything, but it was more so that the insiders were really, it was scary, dude. If something goes public at 15 and the insiders are dumping at $3, like you would imagine the insiders want to show to investors, hey, we're buying right now, we're not selling. And it's not like a Palantir, right? It's a biotech company. It's very risky. So I don't know. It's just Ginkgo's in a tough situation right now. And we'll see. And also their earnings sucked. I mean, if you looked at their earnings, cell programs are down, biosecurity revenue is non-existent. I mean, dude, it's like a startup that went public that is trying to perform in the public markets, and it really can't because they just don't have the numbers to perform. I mean, look, the company is worth what? 2.2 billion. They're doing a couple $100 million in revenue a year. Like, that's not, and none of it's profitable. It's a tough situation right now. Like, even buying options on this thing don't look attractive because we just don't know where the trajectory is going to go when it comes to Ginkgo. Hey, Amit, what's going on with Enovix? Okay, so Enovix has been taking a beating since their earnings. Enovix now down 7%. Remember, Enovix is a battery company, and Enovix also is a startup that went public. They acquired another company. That's why they started to do a couple million in revenue. But they're a battery play that's headed by TJ Rogers, the guy who's part of Enphase. That's why everyone's excited. There's a real cult around the stock on Twitter. The problem with Enovix is, they're not producing revenue. They're not producing profits. They're just a small company that has a lot of big dreams, and investors are subsidizing those dreams. So if you're investing in Enovix, you can't really be afraid that they're down 10%, down 7%, kind of like Ginkgo. You have to have like a 5 to 10 year horizon on these guys when it comes to a battery making company that Apple is potentially in talks with partnering with, but that's not confirmed. And then Ginkgo, that could be a really big synthetic biology company, but there's going to be years of R&D before that happens. So Enovix and DNA kind of in the same boat. You kind of just have to wait until they perform, but it's one of those companies that takes time, likely over the next 5 years. Now, TJ Rogers is an absolute stud, and that leadership I wouldn't bet against, but it took Enphase years before they broke out. I mean, Enphase was on the brink. If we go to their max chart, yeah, look at this right here. Enphase went public in 2012. From 2012 to 2019, or from 2012 to 2018, they were stuck at 65 cents. So 6 years of 65 cents. Then they broke out in 2019 to $30. And then by 2023, they broke out to $330. But I mean, these 6 years of waiting, that's kind of what I think Enovix is in right now. And eventually Enovix will break out, but it might take a long time for that to happen. I walked into a Nike store this weekend. I really wasn't impressed. Yeah, dude, I don't know, dude. If you looked at their last earnings, their sales are down, I think 12% year to date, or 12% year over year, sorry, for North America, which is bad because North America, I believe, is where their margins are the best because, they can charge absurd amounts in the United States and Canada for, a $3 hoodie that we pay $80 for. But as I grow up, I just don't like that anymore. I don't like paying something that I know the company is making an absurd margin on because my mind moves towards business. And I also just don't like that I'm kind of being taken advantage of, right? Now, I'll let other consumers be taken advantage of. They can be taken, but I don't want to, like, I know this is too cheap for me to be paying this much. I also don't have the disposable income where I can justify an $80 purchase on something I know cost them $5 to make in Pakistan. So that, I think, is weighing in on consumers as inflation is rising a little bit as well. But also the brand is just not that exciting anymore, I think, in North America. Inspire Rice says, what do you think about this Boeing dip while the company is going through it? Only 2 companies really make planes. Buying opportunity for Boeing. I definitely think it's a buying opportunity. I would be afraid because the more and more these cases pop up, it's getting a little scary for Boeing's brand. They were 113 in July of 2022. They peaked here at about 262 in 2023 December, and now they're down 178. So they're down about 30%. Probably a buying opportunity, but not something that I would be interested in because I don't think the situation is solved. PBS on YouTube did a great documentary on Boeing. It was an hour-long documentary on the 737 and the issues that are happening with that plane. It doesn't look like the issues are being resolved. And in 2017, when they found out what problems were there with the 737, they didn't resolve the issues. They just did a bunch of marketing to get through the PR. So if they don't resolve the issues, I don't think it's a dip to buy because at the end of the day, the 737 still has issues. And until they resolve that, I don't know how exciting the dip is for Boeing. Bro Fesco just says, you've definitely been shopping at Temu and Shein. No, dude, you can shop at like H&M. You can shop at like H&M and get a hoodie for like $20 versus shopping at Nike and getting a hoodie for $80. You know what I mean? Like, there's other places to shop at that are cheaper. That doesn't break the bank. Tesla 166, Google 149. What else do we have? Boeing needs Foundry. No, that's 100% true. They absolutely need Foundry. By the way, let me show you this tweet Arnie had over the weekend. I mean, this was absolutely hilarious. So, so you know how Edwin, the Bear Cave dude, said that Palantir is a imposter? Well, over the weekend, he said that Delta is the best U.S. airline by far. This is what Edwin, our boy Edwin from the Bear Cave, said. Arnie just happened to quote tweet him and say that Delta was the first airline to rely on the Skywise predictive maintenance partnership between Palantir and Airbus. And obviously in June, the Bear Cave defined Palantir as an AI imposter. So it's just funny that he said Palantir is an AI imposter, and then he says Delta is the best U.S. airline, but Delta is relying on Palantir's AI software in order to become, and they have been since 2019, in order to become the best U.S. airline. So, you know, that it's always funny to see that. It does seem like Boeing could use some Palantir, and obviously Delta has been using Palantir, which is why they've been doing really well. Funniest moment of 2024. It was actually hilarious. You know, by the way, Edwin did say he would come on my channel and he would debate me a year from now. We did that in June. So maybe I should hit him up and say, hey, it's June 2024. Do you want to get on another conversation? It'd be interesting to see if he still sticks by his guns and says that they're an AI imposter, because the stock's up. I mean, by June, I think the stock is going to still be in that $25 range. Stock would be up basically 50% from that last debate. It'd be interesting to see if he still believes they're an AI imposter. We'll see. Nvidia 913. We'll cover them during the market close. Robinhood 1796 down 1%. I think the dip probably could get eaten up by Robinhood as we see more and more people get excited about Robinhood in the 1790, 1780 range. So we'll see how that plays out. And Palantir 2357 down from that $27 range, but still 2357 consolidating nicely in that $22, $25 range, which is good for Palantir. All right. I think that's it for today. Let's do the word of the day, and then we are done. I think I've seen this word of the day. This is an interesting one. Cacophony. Cacophony.
Cacophony.
I got that one right. Harsh discordance of sound or dissonance. As the orchestra tuned their instruments, a cacophony of mismatched sounds filled the concert hall. The classroom erupted into a cacophony of laughter and chatter after the bell rang for recess. Kind of a ton of voices and loud noises happening at once. All of the bears talking crap about Palantir was just the cacophony of noises, cacophony of bearishness that we had to deal with for a year and a half. And hopefully now we are through that. And the short sellers, obviously a cacophony of noises that Alex Karp felt over the past year. Let me show you two memes before we end out. I made these two memes over Twitter and I put them out over the weekend. So here is the first meme. This is what I was telling you guys about NVIDIA's PE in the morning. This is the tell me the truth meme. I'm ready to hear it. NVIDIA actually is inexpensive on a PE basis. So this is a fun one. And then the second one, we had to do it. I bet he's thinking about other women. And me, I'm thinking if Alex Karp referencing Coke in the latest interview is a preview of an upcoming Coca-Cola partnership. That's what us Palantir bulls are thinking about when our girls think we're thinking about other women. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys on market close. Will be exciting. We will discuss everything going on in the stock market, 3:45, and then NVIDIA's conference starts at 4 p.m. So from 4 to 6, we'll be discussing NVIDIA, and we'll keep going from there, and we'll see what Jensen has to say. It'll be an exciting press conference, and it'll be super fun to see what NVIDIA produces and how the market reacts to it. All right. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I will see you guys at 3:45. Have a great Monday. Let's kill it. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.